So, the Supreme Court, how I hate saying that, it's total travesty of the English legal system and common law. But however, it calls itself the Supreme Court and has come up with some pretty weird stuff. One of Tony Blair's brighter ideas, I suppose. But in this case, it has come up with this. Women in equality law refers to biological women, the Supreme Court rules. What the Supreme Court has done is interpret a law that was passed in 2010. It was called the Equality Act 2010, and it came up with a list of things that were called protected characteristics. And of that list, you see, you have age, gender reassignment, being married, being pregnant, disability, race, religion or belief, sex or sexual orientation. And here we have a little bit of a clash, because they do say gender reassignment, which means you can't discriminate against someone who's been reassigned in gender. Now, that's sort of a very amorphous thing, because what do you mean by discriminating against someone with gender reassignment? For instance, Nurse Peggy, who didn't like a man changing his clothes in a women's changing room while she was trying to deal with some personal matters of hygiene. Would you call that prejudice or not? There's the problem. And then it says religion or belief. Well, Nurse Peggy, there's another nurse, I forget her name right now, but she believed that the patient she was treating was a man. She has Christian beliefs that told her he was a man, and she had some physical proof as well. So here we have two things that are clashing, because the person she was treating was definitely a man, but he'd been reassigned gender, and that clashed with this nurse's belief as a Christian that he was a man and not a woman. So she referred to him as a man, which was actually a medical decision she made, because she was going to catheterize him, but that's another matter. So you have a little bit of a problem here, don't you? Sloppy laws. We've had a lot of very sloppy laws in the past few years, written by people or passed by people who keep on saying, well, it'll never come to that. And it always does. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about that. I am Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble and Minds. And if you're in the UK and have a VPN, or are outside the UK, I'm on BitChute as well. Right, so you see, the Supreme Court finally decided that this equality law referred to biological women, and the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act refer to a biological woman and biological sex. Now, I want to make it clear, and I've said so in many previous videos, there are some men who would prefer to live life as women. They feel that they are women. It is a mental illness, but it's manageable. Either they just dress up occasionally, or they go through the whole pain of gender reassignment and outwardly resemble women. Now, there have been times when I've gone into a ladies', lavatory, and a woman has come in with what I would call masculine calves to her legs. Not particularly hairy, completely dressed as a woman, nothing really different except perhaps a bit heavier in the forehead, a bit broader in the shoulders, and, that leg between knee and ankle very often a giveaway. However, I have not felt threatened by these people because they've come in like the other women do. They go to the cubicle, they do whatever they wanted to do in the cubicle, they come out, they check their lippy maybe, wash their hands and then go. I don't have any problem with that, even though I think, well, that's a very masculine looking woman, or it's a man who's living as a woman. Now, I couldn't find it, I'm really sorry about that, but one trans activist pretending to have concern for other people said something like, oh, this is a terrible rule, it means that masculine looking biological women are going to get victimised. No, you don't get women piling on sort of slightly beefier looking women, providing they are acting like all the other women. But I was in a motorway service station, you know, taking what you Americans refer to as a comfort break, and I noticed when I went into the, you know, the open area, there was one man dressed as a woman, standing in the middle of the crowd of other women and girls, and he had his skirt up at the side because he was adjusting his suspender belt on his stockings. Women don't wear stockings anymore. Well, I mean, not generally. Certainly you wouldn't find a woman adjusting her stockings in the middle of a crowd like that. But the thing was, I went into a cubicle, did what I had to do, came out, washed my hands. He was still there, still fiddling with the same suspender belt clasp. Oh, by the way, in America, it's a garter belt, isn't it? And all the time he was doing this, he was looking round. It was very disconcerting. Now, before this Supreme Court ruling, I couldn't have gone up to him and said, "You're a man, get out of here," without causing a lot of trouble. Now I could do that. There were kids there, little girls. And I would do that. I did actually consider doing it anyway, but I didn't. And I think I was wrong. But it would have, we would have delayed, you know, it's like everything else. We had to get somewhere at a certain time, so we were delayed. But the thing is, it was an awkward situation. Now, with the strength of this law behind me, I can say, you know, here, look, get out or I'll call the police. Because now I'd have the law on my side. And then you got that girl, well, this happened in America, but it happens here as well, where a girl refused to fight, to do a fencing bout with a trans woman. Well, a man who wore a frock in his spare time. And he won the bout because she refused. And all the knock-on effects of that. The stealing of a scholarship she may have been going for, the trophies and progression through an athletic career, which is now stopped. And that it's not quite the same in England. You don't get sports scholarships in British universities, but you know, it puts you in a weak position. Now, the Supreme Court built on the Equality Act. So they didn't come up with anything new. They just said that a protected characteristic is a woman who is female chromosomally. So I don't know what they're going to do about this gender reassignment stuff, because it directly clashes with this religion or belief, with this sex, and and it's completely incompatible with this gender reassignment. If, as I've said, if there is a man who wants to live as a woman and live a woman's life, I don't see anything wrong with that. But what's happened is that the whole issue has been hijacked by men of very dubious morality, and I'm talking general morality, and mostly I'd suggest men who really hate women anyway. And here we have probably the most important part of it. Fact is not hate, this poster says. I will not call the man who raped me she, Your Honour. And this was the most egregious thing. That woman, that man in the women's toilets fiddling with his suspender belt made me uncomfortable. But there have been cases in British law, in this wonderful legal system, in the majesty of a judicial system, where a woman who has been sexually assaulted by a man who says he's a woman, the victim, is being forced to call that man she. That is a double rape. And if only for that, I congratulate the Supreme Court. OK, well, yeah, that's my take on this ruling. Till next time, you can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.